Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to create a basic application so as to revise most of the concepts which we have studied in this course. So basically we are going to create a BMI calculator which is called as the body mass index calculator. We are going to create a BMI calculator app and we are going to design the application in two parts. So the first part of this tutorial is going to be designing the user interface of our application and we are going to make it look good. And the next part of the tutorial is going to be on how to code the app and how to actually make the app functional so that the user could use the application in order to create or in order to calculate the BMI. So let's get started with the tutorial. So the first thing which we'll need to do is that we need to create a new Android Studio project, and let's name this project as BMI app. Then let's click next and make sure that you select the API level 15 because it is one of the most suitable version and stable one. Now in this case we are going to select a blank activity, click next and let this be the main activity, and finally click finish. So as you could see, we have our project set up. Now in this tutorial we are actually going to design the user interface of our application. So in this application we are actually going to have two activities. This is going to be the first or the default activity which we are going to use as a home screen of our application, and then we are going to have the next activity which is actually going to calculate the BMI for us. So the first thing which we need to do is that we need to design these two activities. So let's get started and let's design the first activity. So the first thing which we need to do is that we need to delete this text right here which appears by default. So make sure that you delete it. And now in order to make our application look more good and in order to make it look attractive, we are going to add a background image to this right here. So in order to add a background image, the first thing which you need to do is that you actually need to import a background image into Android Studio. So we simply go into this app folder, then we go to resources, and we actually want the image to be present in this drawable folder. So in order to drag an image and drop it into drawable folder, we minimize this, and as you could see, this is the image which I have downloaded from the internet. So I simply copy this image, go right here, go to drawable, right click on it and paste it. And let's say we name the image as back.png, which stands for background. Click OK, and the image is actually present in the drawable folder right now, and actually we need to set the background to this image. So we simply go to properties here. First we select relative layout, then we go to properties, and in properties we select this property which is called as background. Then we click this button right here and it is going to show us a small window, and in this window actually you could also use a color as background, but in this case we are going to go with an image. And in order to find the image you need to switch to this project tab, and inside the project tab, as you could see, this is our folder which is called as color. So if we click on it, you could see that we are able to have a look at the drawable folder. So we scroll down and our image should be present at the bottom. So here it is, here is our image. So we simply select our image and click OK, and as you could see, the background image has been added. Now the next thing which we need to do is that as this is going to be our home screen, we need to make we need to display our application name right here. So in order to display our application name, we are going to use large text. So we drag the large text here and drop it right over here. So as you could see, we have pasted the large text here, but the thing is that we have a dark background and the color of this text is black. So let's go ahead and change the color of this, and let's go ahead and also change the text for this. So let's make the changes via XML. So let's switch to the XML code, and as you could see, this is our text view right here. So the first thing which we do is that we set the text of it. So in order to set the text, we go here and change this large text to our application name, which is BMI calculator. So when we switch to design view, as you could see, the text has been changed. Now we need to change the color. So we switch back here and we type Android text color, and here we name the color which we want. So I think white is most appropriate for a dark background, so we type #FFF, and this is a color for white. So when we switch to design view, as you could see, our application name is now turned into white color. So once this is done, we actually need a button right here which is going to make the user switch from this activity to our main application. So in order to do that, we simply drag a button and then we drop it right in the middle. So as you could see, we have our button here. Now we are going to make a few changes to this button. So the first thing which we need to do is that we actually need to change the text. So you could also change the text from properties. So if you switch to properties, as you could see, this is our text, and let's change this to continue, or you could also change this to like calculate now. So this is going to encourage the user to click on this, and it is going to take him to the new activity, which is ultimately going to be the BMI calculator. So this is just a simple basic screen, or the basic home screen, which we have created for our application. And after this, the user is going to get the view of our main application. So let's go ahead and design one more activity which consists or which contains our main application. So in order to add one more activity, we go to this Java folder and we click on this folder right here. Actually, we right click on it, go to new, go to activity and select a blank activity, and let's name it as activity 2. Then click finish, and as you could see, a second activity has been added to our project. So if you switch to this is our first activity, and this is the Java class for our first activity, and this is our second activity, and this one right here is the class for the second activity. So now the next thing which we need to do is that we need to design the user interface for our second activity. In order to make the user interface consistent, we are going to use the same background image which we have used here. So we simply switch to this and we select the relative layout, and then we change the background image to the one which we have used in the first activity. So we go to project, go to drawable and select this image which we have used, then click OK, and now as you could see, we have the same background in both of the activities right here. So now the next thing which we need to do is that we actually need to accept the user input so as to calculate the BMI. Now in order to calculate a BMI, we actually need two parameters. The first one is going to be the height of the person, and the second one is going to be the weight of the person, and we are going to accept the units in kilograms and meters. So we are going to accept the weight in kilograms and height in meters. So in order to accept the user input, we actually need edit text. So we scroll down here for edit text, and we are going to use the edit text which is a number and which is going to consist of decimal value. So we select it, drag it, and we drop it right over here. So this is our first edit text, and this is going to be for weight, and then we are going to drag another edit text of the same type for the height. So we drop it here, and as you could see, now we have two edit texts right here. So once we have these two edit texts, we actually need to mention which edit text is going to be used for which purpose. So basically we need a placeholder text which is going to appear right over here, which is actually going to prompt the user that you need to enter the weight here and you need to enter the height over here. So in order to do that, we switch to the XML code, and inside the XML code, as you could see, this is our first edit text, and in order to add a placeholder to it, we type Android hint, and it is basically used in order to give an hint to the user that what this text or what this edit text is all about. So inside it we type, as it is going to accept weight, we type enter weight in kg, and inside the second edit text we are going to type in the hint like Android hint enter height in meters. So if we switch to design view, as you could see, we have our text here, but the thing is that it is not clearly visible to us. That is because it is using the black color. So let's change the text color to white. So we type Android text color and we change it to #6 F, and we do the same thing for the second edit text. So we copy this and we paste it over here. So now if we switch to design view, you could see that there is no change in the text, and that is because we have changed the text for the edit text and not for the hint. So we need to actually change the color for the hint. So in order to do that, we type Android text color hint, and this is basically going to set the text color for our hint. So inside it we type #6 F, And when we switch to design view, as you could see, the text is now white, which is the hint text is going to be white if we change this property. Now we are going to copy the same property for the second edit text, so as to make it visible. Now as you could see, both of the placeholders are visible. So now once these things are set up, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to add a button right here, which is actually going to calculate the BMI. So in order to do that, we go here and we select the button, we drag it and drop it right over here, and we change the text of this button to, let's say, calculate. So as you could see, we have changed the text, and finally, in order to display the result, we are going to use the text view right here. So we are going to drag a large text here, drop it here. This is going to be for the actual BMI number which is calculated, and one more text which is actually going to display if the person's BMI is normal, or like if the person is normal, he is underweight or he is overweight. So once we have these two things, we simply select it, and we also need to actually change the color of both of these. So in order to do that, we go here and we select the same color which we have used in edit text, and we are going to paste them inside the text views as well. So go here and paste it, and paste it as here as well. Now as you could see, each and every widget is present in the white color. Now you need to actually replace the text of both of these, as it is going to look weird if we leave it as it is, like large text. So we switch to properties and we change the text to, let's say, your BMI, and change the text of this to, let's say, your result. So as you could see, we have our application set up. Now the only thing which we need to do is that we need to actually make the user switch from this activity to this activity right here. Now the basic user interface of our application is ready, and in the next tutorial we'll be actually adding life to this application so that we could actually calculate the BMI of the user and we could display it. So the next thing which we need to do is that we need to write the actual code which is going to calculate the BMI of the user. But before that, what we want to do is that we actually want to take the user from this home screen to this screen right here, or we want to make him switch from the first activity to the second activity. So we do that by using intents. So we have already studied what are intents. So whenever you intend to switch a user from one activity to other activity, we use intents. So actually, when the user clicks this button, as we want to redirect him to this activity, we are going to create a method for the on click of this button. So if you select this button and go to on click, and if you create a method which is called as, let's say, button 1 or button first button clicked, and also we need to assign an ID to this button. So we go up here, and instead of this button we name it as button 1, and as you could see, the ID of this button is going to be button 1 and the method is going to be the first button clicked. So now the only thing which we need to do is that we need to go to the Java class of this activity and we need to write in the code for this first button clicked, or for the sake of simplicity, let's say we name it as button 1 click. So in order to write the code for the on click of this button, we switch to the main activity, and one thing which we need to do is that we need to clean up the code so that we don't have confusion regarding the code. So the next thing which we do is that we actually create a method for the button click. So if you don't remember what the name of your method is, you simply select this, you copy it, return back here in the main activity, and then type public void, as this is not going to return anything. Then we simply paste the method name and we pass in the parameters as view. And once our method is set up, we are ready to go and type in some code over here. So basically this method is going to be used in order to redirect the user from this activity to other. So in order to make it happen, we are going to create an intent. So we type intent, let's name it as intent itself, and we type this equals new intent, and to this we are going to pass a few parameters. So the first parameter is going to be the simple this, and it is a basic keyword which we always use whenever we are referring to the current object. So after this, the second parameter is going to be the class name to which we are going to redirect to. So as you could see, the class name of our activity second is activity2. So we type activity2 dot class. So as you could see, our intent is set up, and the next thing which we need to do is that we actually need to start the activity. So we type start activity, and inside it we pass in the intent which we have just created. So we type intent right over here. So this is basically going to start the intent whenever we click this button right here, or whenever we execute this method right here, which is eventually going to get executed when we click the button. So once this is done, we are done with the first part of our coding our application. Now the next thing which we need to do is that we need to work on the second activity, which is this, which is actually going to calculate the BMI for us. So we switch to the second class, and also we need to clean up the code here. So we delete the toolbar and all the code below that. And now the next thing which we need to do is that we actually need to make sure that when the user click this button, we get the result. So in order to do that, first we need to set up a few IDs. So we need to set up the IDs for edit text, for this button, and for the text views right over here. So for this, we select the edit text, which is the first edit text. For weight, we go to ID, or we go to property, and we simply replace this to edit text 1. And when this pops up, simply click don't ask again and hit yes. And we also set an ID for this second edit text, which is edit text 2. That's perfect, we want the same name. So this is going to be edit text 1, this is going to be edit text 2, and let's name this button as button 2, and let's name this as text view 1, and let's name this as text view 2. So once everything is set up, we are good to go. And now finally we need to write the code for calculating the BMI. So we switch to this activity, which is the second activity. And one more thing which we forgot is that we actually need to add an on click to this button as well. So if you go down here, you will see an option of on click, and name it as CALC BMI. So basically it is going to be the button for calculating BMI, so we name it as CALC BMI. Now we switch to the second activity, and inside here we are going to write the method which is the CALC BMI, which is going to get executed when we click the button. So we type public void CALC BMI, and to this we pass view, and inside it we are going to write in the code. So inside it we are basically going to write the code for calculating the BMI. So the first thing which we need to do is that we need to get references to all of these things, the edit text, the button, and the text views. So in order to get the references to all of these, we use find view by ID. So let's get references to each one of them. So we type edit text, and let's name the first edit text as et1 equals, and as this is going to be of edit text type, we type edit text find view by id r.id.edit text 1. Then we get a reference to the second edit text, so we type edit text et2 equals edit text. Again we type find view by id r.id.edit text 2. So once we have the references to both of the edit text, we also get a reference to button. So we type button, let's name it as b1 equals button find view by id r.id. and the name of our button was button 2. And if you're not sure, you could just switch here, and if you go to id, you could see the button name is button 2. So once we have a reference to the button, now the final thing which remains is going to be these two text views. So we switch back to activity, then we type text view t1 equals text view find view by id r.id.text view 1. Then we copy the exact same line of code for the second text view, and we replace this t1 by t2, and this text view 1 by text view 2. So once we have the references to all of these, we could finally go ahead and we could write the code. So the first thing which we need to do is that we also need to use some variables so as to calculate the EMI and to extract the values from these edit text and to actually calculate the BMI. So in order to do that, we create some variables, and it's actually good if we create the variables right here. So basically we create 4 variables, first one for height, second one for weight, third one for BMI, and the fourth one for displaying a message. So we type double and we create a variable for height, so we type double height and let's initialize it to 0. Then we type double weight and let's also initialize it to 0. Then to save the result, we use or we create a variable which is called as BMI, so we type double BMI equals 0 as well, and the final variable to display the result is going to be string, and we name it as message, and we also initialize it to null or we leave it empty. So once we have these variables with us, the next thing which we actually need to do is that we need to extract values from the edit text and we need to store it into the weight and height. But before doing that, we need to make some changes to the text view. As you could see, we have written here text view, but actually if we switch to this activity 2, it is named as the text view 3. So it's better if you rename this text view by something else. So let's say if you set this ID to new text 1, and for this you set the ID to, let's say, new text 2. And now if we switch back here, this is new text 1, and let's replace this by new text 2. And why I did this is because in the main activity, which is this right here, we also have a text view. So in order to avoid confusion, it's always better to have separate names for text views on different activities. Okay, now once it is done, we could finally move on to calculate the BMI. So in order to calculate BMI, first we need to extract the values from these two edit text. So in order to do that, we are actually going to get the weight from the first edit text. So we type weight equals, and we are going to use the first edit text. So we type double dot pass double, and basically we need to actually pass the value so as to get the actual integer value which is stored in that particular variable. So we use double dot pass double, and then finally we use the edit text, so that is going to be et1. Then we are going to use a method which is called as the get text method. So we type get text, and again we are going to use toString method to convert it into a string. Now for the second value, we are going to do the same. So we type weight equals double dot pass double et2 dot get text dot toString. And if you don't get it why we are doing this, this is basically extracting the values from these two edit text and saving it into the variables. And actually this should be height, not weight. Did a mistake there. So finally, when we have these two values, we are good to go, and we could finally calculate the BMI. So in order to calculate the BMI, the basic formula is BMI equals weight divided by height squared. So the first thing which we need to do is that we type BMI equals, first we calculate the square of the height. So we type height multiplied by height, which is going to store the result into BMI, and then we again type BMI equals weight divided by BMI, which is going to be height squared. So we get the value of BMI. Now the only thing which we need to do is that we need to display this value, and actually we need to display this value on the first text view. So we type t1 dot set text, and we actually need to display the value of BMI. So we type string dot value of, and we pass in the value of BMI. So we type BMI in there, and this is going to actually set the value, or it is going to set the value of this text view 1 to this value. Now the next thing which we need to do is that we need to set the value of this thing right here, which is the result, which is going to display if the person is overweight, underweight, or is normal. So in order to do that, we go right here and we make use of if-else statements. So we type if the BMI is less than 18.5, Then we say that the person is underweight, so we type message equals underweight, or you could just simply type in underweight as a single word. Then we type else if BMI is greater than 18.5 and if BMI is less than 25, that means we have a normal case. So in there we type message equals normal, and the final case is going to be else if the BMI is greater than 25, then the person is overweight. So in there we type message equals overweight. So once this is done, we are done with the code. Now finally we need to set the second text view to this message right here. So we type t2.setText, and to this we are finally going to pass in the message, and we miss a semicolon here, and that's why it is showing us an error. Now once everything is done, we are good to go and we could run our application on the emulator. So we save the code and then we run the application on our emulator to check the results. So as you could see, our application is up and running, and this is our home screen for our application, and this is our button right here, which is calculate now. And when we click this button, we actually switch to the second activity, and this activity consists of the main code which we have typed in. So it is going to ask us to enter the weight in kg. So here we are going to enter my weight, so we type 75, and for the height we type in meters. My height is approximately, let's say, 2 meters, and when we hit calculate, as you could see, my BMI is 18.75 and it's absolutely normal. Now let's say my weight is just 40 kilograms, so we type in 40 here, and now if we hit calculate, we are going to get the BMI to be 10, and it is going to say that I am underweight. Now let's say my weight is, instead of 40, we have 140. Now in that case, if we calculate the BMI, it is going to show us that the BMI is 35 and I am overweight. So that's how you make a basic application, and I've taken a simple example of BMI calculator, but by using the same techniques and using the concepts in the course, you could actually go ahead and create your Android application on your own, and you could actually design a more better interface than which I have designed here, by using different images and by using different styles for the fonts and buttons and everything like that. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys understood how we have designed the BMI calculator application so as to have a basic understanding of how applications are created. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.